Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming to listen. It's probably one of the most exciting stories, as many people tell me, so that's a nice start. I hope I can fulfill that idea. This was supposed to be a later sheet. I'll start with this one. So 50 years of Christine le Duc, and I'm a little bit curious, who of you knows Christine le Duc? Can you? Oh, that's a lot of people. It's probably most of you are older than 30. That's good, because younger people are not that known. So what you see here is two pictures of 50 years ago, and we were at the Wallen district here in Amsterdam. There was one shop, and it was actually a souvenir shop, because 50 years ago, nobody was allowed to sell anything erotic except behind or below the counter. So erotic magazines, that was allowed? No, nothing was allowed, but they did do it. So that's how it started 50 years ago. And at the time, Hans Hartog was the founder of Christine le Duc. Hartog means Le Duc in French, that's where the name comes from, and his wife is called Tine, which is Christine. So now you know where the name comes from. What he already knew 50 years ago, or saw very soon, was that he needed to go away from the Wallen district because it's too much erotic and sex related. He wanted to bring erotics to the normal people and the normal streets. And that's what he did. He opened, during the years, he opened 62 retail shops, mostly at A and B locations in the bigger and smaller cities of Holland. So everywhere you looked, actually, there was a Christine le Duc shop, which was already then breaking the taboo that we still have now. So you can imagine how that worked. I've been linked to this kind of company for a long time as well, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself as well and my experience with it, because I've worked for 15 years now in this branch, and I used to do the buying of a lot of things, and let me tell you, it's a man's business. It's been a man's business since 1968 and before that, and actually it still is. This is also me. And I know it's not environmental friendly, really, that's something else. Talk about that later. This is me a few years ago, or actually 10, 20 years ago, where my father taught me how to drive a race car, and not a modern race car, but an older one. So that was a double challenge. I just wanted to explain to you what I've learned by doing that. It is, of course, in the beginning, you're very scared to go too fast, and you need a lot of technique. So that's what I learned first. Technique, and then building up the speed. So it's actually like learning everything. You need to do it step by step. But also, this is a man's world, so you've been taught how to do it, and people are looking at you, oh, you come with a car like that, you probably can drive. Or not, because you're a woman. So that was quite an experience as well. So what I taught, or was learning there as well, was, okay, stay close to yourself. Because, of course, when you don't, and you race your car, you're of course nowhere anymore, and you crash it, or you are really the stupid woman that cannot drive. So I really taught myself to be calm and not to overdo the things I should do, and that actually worked out very well. So in most races I was not the quickest at the start, but then I tried to get my rhythm, and then it was okay, and then I got all the guys in the field coming at me, and then it worked very well. So that's one of the things I learned by doing this. And the second one is, of course, techniques. You need to know what to do and not be afraid, of course, and also develop new things and learn new things. So back to the company life. We are now looking at the beginning of 2000. I was working at Beate Uhse, which is a stock exchange company in Germany. Not anymore, really, because they are not existing anymore. But I've worked with them for 15 years, and I was always doing the buying for the lingerie part. In the time, we had 220 retail shops all over Europe. We had 7 online shops in different countries, and we had a wholesale company, and there were a lot of catalogs going out of the door. So it's huge, and it was the beginning actually of omni-channel 1.0 at the time. Also male-oriented, like I already told you. Then I worked myself through the company and got to be the head of buying. In the end, it was 2014, around about that time. And I found myself in a boardroom with 10 men, all responsible for a part of the company and not working together at all. So there again, I tried to stay close to myself. I tried also to look at what the market wanted to do, because you can really discuss a lot in a boardroom with 10 guys, but you probably never look outside what's happening. And that's what always was the problem a little bit. So what was happening is that the market changed. So female customers got to be the biggest customer group. Only all the men at the table were not really aware that they were doing something for women. That was always a little bit in the back of my mind, because I was not the person who would explain it to the rest of the world. I was only buying the stuff. Buying the stuff means 60 million in turnover in lingerie only. It was wearable lingerie. We always designed it ourselves, went to China, went to production everywhere. And even I've heard that Hunkemöller in the end was really happy that we could not sell it through, because we were a big competitor for them at the time. So that's a little bit about the omni-channel, but now about the present time, because of course we shouldn't forget what we're doing now. Christine le Duc was part of this big company, but there was a strategy a few years ago where they said, okay, we don't want any brands that are not close to the core of the company anymore, and Christine le Duc was one of the brands that didn't fit their portfolio anymore. At the time, my husband and I were not in the business anymore, so we quit that job. But we worked together before on this subject. And then they came to us and said, okay, do you want to buy Christine le Duc? And we had to think like 5 minutes, and then we said, oh, yes, why not? Because it's such a beautiful brand. So we picked it up again, and it was really neglected. So there was nothing much left. The brand name was gone. There was nobody heard of us anymore. And when the phone rang, it was never radio or TV calling for a question on erotics. We were not there anymore. So the market was gone. So we really had to build it up again. And that's what we did. Actually, the funny thing is that was quite a coincidence, because we said, okay, we want to do a press release where we say the Dutch brand Christine le Duc exists 50 years and is back in Dutch hands, which we were very proud of. And then my husband said the day before the press release, I don't want to be in the media. And I'm like, oh, okay. What's the story going to be like then? And that was actually the best decision that we could make, because in the end, it was a good story that I was CEO of this company, and that's also how we brought it to the press. And I was really astonished by the attention we got, but also by the story it turned out to be, because it was a woman in a taboo business. It's still taboo. It's still difficult to talk about this, and also it's a normal woman. Let's say that, because there's also, but that's really the reaction that I got. And even here, because that was funny, that is the Telegraaf, and they had the primary story, so they were first to launch it. And I still remember the guy, sorry guys, it's not all that, but he said to me, okay, you're going to be in the photo, so maybe you can stand at the door. There were 2 glass doors, and then maybe you can like put your heel or your toe up like that, and that would be nice for the picture. I said, okay. You don't seriously think that I'm going to do that, because the CEO of Heineken is not always having beer beside him as well, right? So what do you want? That was not the last time that I got that. So I was really astonished by the fact that that happened. I was like, okay, this is like normal business. What are you doing? So I was lucky to have, like, for Retail Trends, being on the cover as an erotic brand. For me, that was like a huge accomplishment. It's really nice also for the business. And then being on TV together with Matthijs van Nieuwkerk. I don't know if you saw it, probably not, but he was like really astonished and about the story. And the best part is also, dit is mevrouw Christine le Duc. So a lot of people call me Christine. That's also funny. No, but again, there is also staying close to yourself. So, because I was quite scared in the beginning. What if they don't like it? What if they're going to make the story ridiculous? What if they're going to really hunt me with stupid questions about my sex life? Because that's not what you want. In the end, it turned out to be very positive and very nice. So I'm happy with that. And also, I hear a lot of good reactions, mostly on nights like these, but also with friends. And that's what I mentioned earlier as well in the conversation, that I also have a lot of friends asking me for advice, which is very funny in the beginning, but then in the end I'm like, okay, I know enough now. So there's a lot of things that are unsaid about this whole story. So I think my mission with the brand is to tell the story, but also have people telling the story to each other. So like really getting some movement going on, especially in women. Because there appears to be a gap between how women approach things and men on this matter. Seriously, there is. After all these years, it's still difficult for some women to talk about it. So what we try to do is bring that story up in different ways, but I always try to stay close to me. So what I think is important for which group you're talking to. Of course, you probably have all difficulties with influencers, or at least what do you want to do with it. But we did think we need good influencers. What are good influencers is the question, but this was good. So there are normal girls wearing our lingerie, but also talking about it and being positive about themselves and also about their sex life. So we're trying really to get those stories out via social media, but also via cooperations with different people. This was also an example of an investigation or a research that we did. And then in the end, we have workshops following the problems that occurred in the research. So people can come to us and have a workshop about different topics. But it's fun, but it's also serious. So you can learn how to enjoy it more. That's actually our story. Also with Faya from ZAP, we did a story, and she told everybody about, of course, looking good and things like that, but also being fit and feeling good, which I also think fits us very well. These are two girls, my two famous workshop girls. They do it very well. They go to every fair that we have. We go to the Huishoudbeurs already for 15 years, and we're actually one of the oldest erotic brands there. And what you see is that a lot of people are joining the table, and we're learning them techniques, but also the fun of it. And I think that's probably the story for me. Yes, I'm the face, but I also would like our story to be told by different people in different target groups, but staying close to the brand, and that is, for me, staying close to the story I wanted to tell. So that's actually my story.